and welcome to the program. I'm Melissa Antonwoka in Lagos. We begin with Russia's invasion of Ukraine as thick plumes of smoke were seen rising over Kyiv's skyline early today following morning strikes in the Ukrainian capital. It was not immediately clear where the smoke was coming from. Unconfirmed reports on social media and local media reports suggested hydroelectric power plants had also been attacked in the Kyiv region. There was no word on casualties, but explosions shook cities, including Kyiv, where local officials said 350,000 apartments were left without electricity. Water supplies were affected. Mobile phone systems were down in some areas. Russian forces pounded energy facilities across Ukraine with missiles, causing blackouts, cutting off water supplies in some parts of the country. Russia has stepped up attacks on energy infrastructure and cities, since blaming Kyiv for an explosion which damaged a bridge linking southern Russia with annexed Crimea. And the mayor of Kyiv has also been reacting to this morning's missile attack. Vitaly Klitschko says that 80% of Kyiv is without water after the strikes. He also says that engineers are working to restore power to 350,000 homes in Kyiv that were left without electricity as a result.
That's why we have bad impact in our hometown. 80% of our city without water, and some districts in our hometown without electricity. Experts right now working, and we hope we fix the problem in the next couple of hours. I have a feeling the Russian aggressors want to freezing people in this winter. They propose himself as war against military, but right now this war have directly impact in civil population. They want to make the people without heating, without water, without electricity. In the winter, they want to freezing the whole population in our hometown. It's genocide, no in other words. Right now we fix it, and right now not a question about evacuation. We don't think right now about that. We fix everything, but it can be if the Russians rockets totally destroyed critical infrastructure in our hometown, it's maybe we can come into to this point. They want to destabilize the whole situation. They try to make people depressed. Instead, the people very angry. And the people don't want to leave. Right now the population in our hometown, 3 million people, and people want to defend houses, defend our hometown, defend our country. They are not afraid, and we're ready to defend our future.
Well, Turkey will continue its efforts for the Black Sea grain export deal despite Russian hesitancy. President Tayyip Erdogan said this today after Russia suspended its participation in the initiative at the weekend. Mr. Erdogan said in a speech that even if Russia behaves hesitantly because it didn't receive the same benefits, then they will continue decisively their efforts to save humanity. Moscow blamed Kyiv for an attack on its Black Sea fleet and on Saturday pulled out of a deal to allow Ukrainian grain shipments for an indefinite term. Russia and Ukraine are among the world's biggest food exporters, and a Russian blockade of Ukrainian grain shipments caused a global food crisis earlier this year. Meantime, Western governments have called on Russia to reverse its decision to pull out of the UN-brokered grain deal, a move that undermines efforts to ease the global food crisis. Well, the Turkey and UN-brokered deal has already allowed more than 9 million tons of Ukrainian grain to be exported and was due to be renewed on the 19th of November. And as a result, a total of 218 vessels are effectively blocked due to Russia's decision to suspend its participation in the grain export deal. This is according to Ukraine's infrastructure ministry. It says grain ships, including the African Robin, St. Sophia, Despina, Nikolais, SK Friendship, Sea Lock, they left Odessa city port and were seen 12 kilometers off the coast on Sunday. As Ukraine did not have permits from the scheme's Joint Coordination Center to pass through the safe corridor, the ministry said via telegram that 218 vessels are blocked in their current positions. The ministry said 95 loaded vessels that had left Ukrainian ports were awaiting inspection for shipments to the final consumer, and 101 empty ones awaited inspection at the entrance to Ukrainian ports. It said 22 ships with agricultural goods were waiting to leave Ukrainian ports. But separately, a UN spokesperson said that the first 40 planned ship inspections today took place and was completed in Istanbul waters with a team of just UN and Turkish members, rather than the previous 4 member teams, including Russians and Ukrainians, before Moscow's suspension. But according to Russia, it would be risky for Ukraine to continue exporting grain via the Black Sea now that it suspended its participation in that deal. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters, in conditions when Russia is talking about the impossibility of guaranteeing the safety of shipping in these areas, such a deal is hardly feasible, and it takes on a different character, much more risky, dangerous, as well as unguaranteed. Mr. Peskov blamed the actions of the Ukrainian side for disrupting the deal. Kyiv has accused Moscow of blackmailing the world with hunger. According to Mr. Peskov, Russian contacts with Turkey and the United Nations, which brokered the grain export deal in July, were continuing. He declined to comment when asked what needed to happen from Russia's point of view for the deal to be resumed. Like we said earlier, 12 ships carrying the grain left Ukrainian ports today. But we understand that despite Russia's withdrawal from the deal, they are in motion. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky believes that Ukrainian forces had repelled a fierce offensive by Russian troops in the eastern Donetsk region. Mr. Zelensky said a military unit from Chop in western Ukraine had undertaken the action, but did not say where the clash had occurred. He said in his nightly address today that they stopped the fierce offensive actions of the enemy. The Russian attack was repelled. The president also said Ukraine's exchange fund had been replenished, meaning Russian servicemen had been taken prisoner. The fiercest fighting in Donetsk region has been around the towns of Bakhmut and Avdiivka. He also blames Russia for the fact that food will now become more expensive for people across a vast expanse from West Africa to East Asia.
Now we need a strong international response, both at the UN level and at other levels, in particular at the level of the G20. How can Russia be among others in the G20 if it deliberately works to create famine on several continents? This is nonsense. Russia has no place in the G20. Russian terror continues and is very cynical. Sometimes strikes are deliberately repeated after the repair has begun, when the restoration is in progress. Unfortunately, we have victims in repair crews and energy companies. My condolences to the families.
To talk some more about this situation, senior analyst SBM Intelligence, Confidence Macari, joins me now for more. Hi, Confidence, good to see you. The war isn't over yet. What's your take on Russia's announcement over the weekend suspending participation in the Black Sea Grain Initiative?
This is not a shocking development to begin with, because if you look at the circumstances surrounding the grain shipment deal that was signed in July, it was supposed to last for 120 days. The 120 days elapsing in mid-November. So, but the Russians came out to say that there was an attack on the Black Sea fleet in Sevastopol, the second city in Crimea, which affected its lines, and they said they want to use that pretext to opt out of the grain shipment. But one thing we should understand is that the Russians are saying that they are going to opt out of the deal, or just pulling out of the deal doesn't necessarily mean that the grain shipment is going to end. What the Russians are trying to do simply is a psychological thing, in the sense that the particular channels from Odessa where the grain shipments are supposed to pass are actually mined by the Ukrainian Navy. And so only the Ukrainian Navy know how to navigate those mines to get the grain shipment out without ships coming under mine attack. So what the Russians are inherently saying is that they cannot guarantee the security and the safety of those ships if they are to pull out of the deal. So what this ultimately does is that it puts a level of anxiety on the part of the exporters, the people who send the ships to the port of Odessa to get those goods out, in the sense that in the absence of security guaranteed by the Russians, they cannot be able to navigate the waterways out of their node. So no matter how much the Ukrainians rather try to assure them that passage is quite safe, they don't really feel safe, and this is in some way going to affect the global supply of it, and then the countries who mostly need this product are going to be most affected.
And we still await, the UN's position on this, because Turkey has been talking about it, saying they will still go ahead to see, that they continue to serve humanity because of the ripple effect of this. But then Russia has asked the UN Security Council to meet today to discuss, the attack on its Black Sea fleet, which, it's accused Ukraine of carrying out. But no one still knows why there is the uncertainty or denial, no confirmation that Ukraine is responsible. And Ukraine is blaming Russia for that, saying that's perhaps the reason why Russia is carried out that suspension.
Well, like I said earlier, the deal was supposed to last for 120 days, and we just have 2 weeks to the end of this competition. And I don't, on the surface level, one doesn't exactly see what the Russians are trying to achieve by calling on the United Nations Security Council, to convene. From my own standpoint, I don't exactly see what they are trying to achieve, apart from a PR campaign to try to get the United Nations Security Council to legalize whatever actions they might take on the attack on the Black Sea, in Crimea. But what this thing might lead to basically is a situation where Russia justifies the attack on its Black Sea fleet on an escalation tactic that will actually surprise not only Ukraine but also the West. And the terms of escalation might actually be nuclear. It might be an escalation of conventional attacks on Ukraine's position. It might be a variety of others. So them convening this United Nations Security Council, which is an emergency session, it's more of the way of pulling their hands out and say not famous for anything else.
And Ukraine, on the other hand, has said that, Russia could have carried out that particular attack. And one wonders if Russia would carry such an attack on itself, talking about the bridge now. But sadly, we're looking at food for more than 7 million consumers on hold at the moment. What do you think the West can do to reverse, the position of the Russians?
Yeah, so to answer the question of what Ukraine said, whether Russia should be actually behind the attack on the state. I mean, we have a lot of historical evidence to show that the Russians are the masters of force-plus operations, which essentially is to mean that it's a tactic to accuse the other side that which you're guilty of. But in this particular case, try to organize an action that would justify the action of the bigger one, which we have a lot of historical evidence, like I said, for that, for the Russians doing that. In 1939, they shelled a village on the border with Finland and invaded Finland 4 days later after accusing the Finnish military of carrying out that attack. That particular war, started in 1939, 1940, and ended in 1941. It was known as the Winter War between Russia and Finland. In 1958, Russia also carried out shelling in Czechoslovakia, just as the people in that country started to demand for democratic reforms. And in 1999, we also seen this in the much more modern fashion, where there were a series of bombing in Moscow, Volgograd, and some parts of Russia, which was instantly became of certain record, and which was quickly launched a few days later into Chechnya, which was the second Chechnya war. And of course, it improved Putin's standing, making it so he doubled himself as president of Russia. So Russia is kind of masters of post-flag operations. And as for what it portends for the 7 million people who need Ukraine, to use Russia's talking point, which I was listening to Dmitry Peskov, spokesman of the Kremlin, they said one of the key reasons why the Russians are pulling out is because the grains itself are not full the countries who need it most. We are looking at people like Lebanon, places in Senegal, far off countries just around the world who are at the risk of starvation, due to shortage of grain and shipment. So the Russians do not believe that it's going towards the people that need it the most. So, but the United Nations have countered them saying that statement is actually false, because a lot of these countries, we've seen about 47 million grain shipments out of the coast in July, which is on course, if it continues to the end of the year, supposed to near up to half of what we saw last year of about 290 million shipments for Ukraine's port. But yes, to answer your question directly, a lot of people are going to step up with this. And for a country like Lebanon, which its president signed yesterday because the government could not come to the political agreement to continue with the government that was signed into office a few months ago. To wonder what the impact will be on starting conditions in this part of the world.
Finally, perhaps in terms of hostilities, do you think we've gotten to the point where Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is such that it's really the biggest of hostilities between Moscow and the West since the Cuban crisis?
Yes, you could say that. In 1999, during the Kosovo bombing, the war in the Balkans between Serbia and its neighbors, Russia was not in any good position to participate, because it could only stand by because of its economic growth and the political oblivion that it plunged itself into at the end of the Cold War. But we can't say that we haven't seen this thing coming. Some scholars will argue that the key reason why we have this war, we are fighting this war, or we have this war on because of sustained Western actions in increasing or enlarging NATO's frontier border close to Eurasia. And yes, you could say on one hand that it is the biggest confrontation between the West and Russia, especially if you look at the conflict in Ukraine as a proxy war between the West and Russia. I also do think that the Russians feel the same. In August, President Putin said that a key reason why the war hasn't ended is because the US, or especially the United States, for instance, see it as an opportunity to attack and escalate Russia. And from one part, I say that he is right, because there was a report sometime around May that was released by Nigeria, former Deputy National Security Advisor in Foreign Affairs, a magazine from the U.S. Department that stated that the Ukrainians were on the verge of agreeing a preliminary deal to end hostilities as far back as March, but it was actually then UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson who flew to Kiev and stopped the deal on account of the fact that he told President Zelensky that the Ukrainians, the Russians are not to be trusted, especially Putin, because what is to stop Putin, from increasing the demand, when you are going to the first man. And then on the other hand, you could call President Putin's claim homewash, because there was also another report that the special Russian envoy to Ukraine, who was actually Ukrainian by birth, was sent to Ukraine at the start of the war to get a negotiated settlement. And then when he got the Ukraine's input, and then he said that they were going to end it, the Russian president put the response aside and continued the situation. So there have been a lot of back and forth from both sides. One of them has been on the other side of the original country war, the other one saying that they actually carrying out the war as a pretext. So yes, in war, truth is the first casualty, and we are seeing a lot of that play out in recent times.
We'll continue to, monitor and see how all this plays out. We appreciate your time on the program. Senior Analyst, SBM Intelligence, Confidence Macari. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.